let's talk about school, shall we? It surprised me to learn, but to my right, I've got David Curtin, a man who has been responsible for teaching children their sex education in schools in the past. You're a man of all talents, aren't you? The reason I'm talking about this today is because there is concerns that in some of these lessons, parents are not getting access to see what material their kids are being taught. I think as a parent, it's crucial in topics like sex education, all this gender stuff now that everyone seems to be obsessed with. I would want to look at that, determine it's suitable for my kid, and if I determined it wasn't, I would A, want them to, probably cancel it or whatever, or B, I'd take my kid out the lesson. Where do you stand on this? Because a lot of these organisations are saying that the parents can't be given access to this material because there's a breach of copyright.
First of all, I need to clarify what I was doing. I taught science, so as part of that, I taught biology, chemistry, physics to 11 to 14-year-olds, and I taught reproduction as part of general science to lots of children in lots of schools that I worked in until I became in.
Can you imagine doing that now? Yeah. It would be a minefield teaching these kids these days about reproduction. Anyway, go on.
The thing is, so I would make a distinction between sex education, which is what I did, teaching about reproduction, and sexuality education, which is what the UN and the World Health Organization call this kind of program that's being rolled out around the world everywhere. And in England, it's called relationships and sex education. That's the branding of it. It's way, way more than just teaching reproduction. It's teaching all kinds of non-reproductive sexual acts. It's teaching about transgenderism. It's teaching about LGBT stuff. And a lot of parents don't want their children to be taught this kind of thing because it's against their values, and that's absolutely fine. And the Human Rights Convention actually supports their right to say, well, my children, if I want them not to learn about these things that are conflict with my values, they can take them out of lessons. But this is going to children of a lower and lower and lower age, and right down to 4 and 5-year-olds now are being given material which is explicit and it's sexualizing material, and absolutely it shouldn't be given to kids at all. So I 100% support parents' rights to see all material in this RSE subject, relationships and sex education, and also PSHE, which is other...
And do what once they've seen it then? So if they see this stuff, they say this isn't appropriate, then what?
Then they should be able to say, no, I'm going to take my children out of this subject. I'm not going to let my children sit in a lesson where these kind of sexualizing materials...
You don't think that they should try and stop the material being taught? You think that they should just be able to remove their child from the teaching of it?
Well, both. I mean, some schools are adamant and insist that they're going to go and teach these things, which I think is absolutely wrong. And this has come in with a 2017 Act of Parliament, the Children and Social Care Act, I think, which brought in compulsory mandatory relationships education for children in all ages, from primary school, 4 or 5, right up to 18. So it's compulsory now. There are schools, some schools don't, they go out of their way to make sure that there isn't any age inappropriate material, so that parents don't have to worry. But some schools are full of activist teachers who deliberately want to give the most sexualizing material they can possibly find to teach the youngest children that are there all about transgenderism, etc., which goes against the wishes of the vast majority of parents, and it shouldn't be done.